one. Welcome back, everybody, to Hoops HT. It's Championship Week Video Notebook, day number 7, I think. We're a full
Day
week
seven.
in, which means we're not even halfway there.
Yeah, I mean it's a long week. It takes about over 2 weeks.
I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Griggs and David Dorman to my sides up here. John Salika and Joby Fortson joining us as well down below. And as we mentioned, this is the Championship Week Video Notebook. And first of all, everybody, have no fear. Griggs is still locked in the puppet
You
bunker.
can let me out now. It's been a week. Week's over.
All right, let's get right to the scores from the day and the
Okay.
news and notes oh,
Oh,
sorry, technical difficulties
oh
there.
God.
We must be on Flow Sports here.
Yeah, Flow Sports. We're on.
Okay, let's try to get that scoreboard up again here.
Oh, for God's sake, Flow. We
Here we
have
go.
this
Here we
new
go.
agreement with Flow Sports, and they keep
I like the
going dark on
modern
us.
chess pattern right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. A lot. Yeah. A lot to unpack.
there's a lot of games here, including the highlighted one in the middle. But let's kind of go in order for the screen. Why not? And let's kind of hit each of these conferences from the regular season stuff today because there was a lot to unpack. Joby, the SEC. Uh, Maybe we'll start right in the middle. Alabama, Auburn. What a game. Mark Sears with the winner.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and the biggest thing you notice is everybody in the world knows Sears will at least have the ball in some capacity. He might be passing it with 1 second or et cetera, but you know he's the one Alabama wants to have the ball in that situation. And Auburn made a miss switch and gave Sears a step. Sears took advantage of it, and boom, Alabama gets their revenge. But hey, the best moment of that, watching that, might have been the discussion with Con Canoopel, who is one of the better players, good 3-point shooter for Duke. He's watching the game before the Carolina Duke game, and he turns to the guys. And remember, this is a guy with Cooper Flagg on his team. Goes when Broome nails the three to tie it to set up, the Sears shot. He goes, yeah, that guy might be the best player in the country. Yeah, by ESPN reports. And, so you might have a vote on the Duke team, for best player. Broome was excellent, absolutely excellent, outstanding. And, hey, these are two teams. And I honestly believe Alabama's win today puts them right back in the discussion, even if they don't win the SEC, right back in the discussion for a one.
Oh,
I mean, Florida, I know is elbowing them. And sorry, Tennessee, you played a crappy South Carolina team, so you don't get a lot of credit here.
Oh,
Because
Florida beat a good Ole Miss team, so we'll give them credit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Florida did beat a good Ole Miss team, but Alabama, the reason why Tennessee is ahead of Alabama right now is because Tennessee beat Alabama head to head in Knoxville. This was in Auburn. That's a big deal in my book.
yeah.
Alabama made a huge stride tonight. And whether I think with Houston looking like they're going to win, Duke, we'll talk about that later. I think there's one second SEC number one spot, and we will see where it goes. Right now, roll Tide.
All right, let's go quickly through some of these other
Yeah, we gotta
SEC
move.
games. Kentucky with the pick up yet another road win against a nationally ranked team at Missouri.
Yeah. Just real quick, I've been saying that Kentucky probably isn't a protected seed caliber team. Kentucky is a protected seed caliber team after winning that one. I mean, that it was tough to win at Missouri. They're really good at home.
Dorman, real quick, 3 of the SEC bubble teams: Arkansas, big home win over Mississippi State; Georgia, big home win over Vanderbilt; and Oklahoma, big road win at Texas, all helping their cases.
All helping their cases. I actually think all 3 are going to get in now, Chad, and I think Texas is in big trouble. I think Texas is probably out without a major move, maybe to the finals even. Anything short will be the end of Texas and maybe the coach's end of his run there in Austin. But yes, huge day for the Bubblers besides Texas.
And here we are, 13-bit SEC is looking very realistic after today. Over in the Big 12 Conference, Stalika. Uh, as we're recording this, Houston is putting the finishing touches on Baylor, although that's still not quite over yet. But the big game was Kansas's home win over Arizona, I think.
Let's move on.
Yep.
Salika, any comments?
Sorry, I got the test pattern from the CAA right now. I trust you were talking about the UC Oklahoma State game where former Musketeer standout.
Correct. That's what he was. Yeah.
Forget it. Okay. So, to the extent there's a few bracketologists that still thought Cincinnati was anywhere close, I think they're gone. Same with K-State. Same with TCU. Texas Tech gets a nice road win. Over in the ACC, though, the game of the day, the game of the week, the game of the month, the game of the season, and nobody even called it beforehand. It was Cal Notre Dame. Griggs, has been well more than 2 years.
Yes, we have not.
We had a quadrupler.
We had one. We almost had a quintupler, and of course, I haven't seen the updated J&G, but Notre Dame straight into the field. This ices it for them. The only team to win a quadrupler all year long.
Joby, how many extra points do you get in the J&G for winning a quadrupler? I mean, it's got to be like an extra 100 points or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to believe it is equal to as if they'd won by 2 in regulation.
Wake Forest got a much needed win. And SMU, to the extent they were on the bubble still for some people, that may be gone with their loss at Florida State. And how about Dorman? Duke beats North Carolina. We know Duke is amazing. What does this do for Carolina now with this loss?
I believe Carolina needs to at least get to the conference championship in the ACC next Saturday night. It would really help their case if they could beat, besides Duke, Louisville or Clemson along the way. Those are the only 2 teams with Duke that really give you any bump up. So they're going to need to run into for them, they want to run into Clemson or Louisville to get those opportunities. And then if you fall short in the finals, I think you got a case. Anything else, big trouble.
The problem, Dorman, is they're the 5 seed. And so now they are stuck on a Duke track. And so they're not going to get credit for beating. I think Pitt would be the best team to play. Yeah. And
I could find this here. Give me a second because it's way down on the sheet. But there it is. There is the ACC tournament. But they do get a shot at the Wake win at least, which would be something.
They get a win. Yeah, but that's they're going to need help. They're from Stalika's school. And, the SEC played itself out well today. They needed something weird to happen there, and it did not.
They're going to have to beat Duke in the semis Friday night, or they're done, I think.
Yeah, if they're in the semis, the one thing that's very interesting here, though, is the seed list. The seed list will have been compiled by the time that they tip off against Duke, and they might be given the makeup of the committee, they might be in a position where they get the nod over, Xavier or someone like that. I don't know if they deserve it, but they might.
UC Irvine. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And so Rocco Miller from BrackCheer.org joining us, by the way. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just got done watching somebody that has 17 wins away from home. I'm sorry to interrupt.
A big comeback for them too. We'll get to that in a second, though.
And potentially more on the way in the conference tournament. But
let's jump ahead here quickly. Utah, no surprise in the Mountain West. Utah State took care of Air Force. San Diego State is putting the finishing touches on Nevada as we record this. But Rocco, how about the Johnnies with their overtime win in Marquette? Another really good game today.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. Great battle. I thought Marquette actually stepped up a little bit. They haven't looked themselves in the last month compared to what Marquette was like the first 3.5, 4 months of the year. But they brought it today. Ross took that injury a little bit late down the stretch, but Johnny's I just swear every time I watch them, they're afraid to lose. I just don't think they want to deal with Pitino if they lose, so they just keep winning. And obviously they're benefiting from that. They're right. I think they're in play for that last 2 seed now. They've kind of checked all the boxes, but I don't even know if they want it. I think they probably prefer the 3 in the East, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, UConn got the revenge on Seton Hall. Creighton won easily, and Salika, your Xavier Musketeers did what they need to do, and now they get Marquette in the first round of the Big East tournament.
Oh, they were playing more like Memphis today, in that they were probably getting a little bit tired of some of the lower tier Big East teams. They nearly played with their food a little bit too much, but they found a way to win, at least from the free throw line, where they were hitting at about an 80% clip. Providence fortunately shot at about a 40 to 50% clip, so they survived what would have been a very damaging quad 3 loss at home.
Yeah, George Mason wins in the A10. I think it's still too little, too late for the Patriots for an at-large bid. But before we get to the bottom row, let's go across the rest of the top row here. Griggs, first of all, surprised by Wisconsin losing at home to Penn State today. Penn State team that's not even going to be in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and every time I really start to feel good about the Badgers, they go out and disappoint. So I'll take responsibility for this one. Pretty chalky the rest of the way. I mean, that was sort of a bubble-icious game in Indiana. Indiana pulling that one out. I don't know, like when every game, when you're on the bubble, every game has a pivotal feel, so it feels like it was a big win for Indiana, but they still have work to
And of
do.
course, after that game, I just saw that Jerry Palm still thinks Ohio State's an NCAA tournament team. It's just
Yeah.
blowing my mind, and it's
Yeah,
just blowing
but
Rocco's mind also because I just don't see it there
I
with
haven't
Ohio
seen
State
it.
right
well,
now.
I mean, you're downplaying what their RPI is. So I mean, really good.
We like Jerry, but I
Yeah,
don't agree with him
we
at
love
all
Jerry,
about
yeah.
Ohio State. UCLA took care of USC. And by the way, only the American and the Big Ten left with regular season games tomorrow. One of those games is going to be Iowa at Nebraska. The winner gets the last spot of the Big Ten tournament. The loser is out. Yes, Nebraska, a team still on the bubble,
Really?
might not be in the Big Ten tournament if they lose tomorrow.
So
Yeah.
they're for
They
sure
are
out.
they are out with a loss tomorrow.
Incredible.
And if they win that game and get maybe one or two, they're probably getting an at-large bid. That's just amazing right
So
now.
basically, it's now a 6-round Big Ten tournament for the Huskers.
It is, and for Iowa,
Yeah, it
but
is. It is. Yeah.
uh, going down to, well, I guess let's finish up the top row there. As we recording this, UC Irvine just put the finishing touches on UC Santa Barbara. UC San Diego beat UC Davis. Both teams doing what they needed to do to stay alive for at-large bids.
No. Hey, Chad, UC San Diego just tipped off. It just started.
I've
They're
got
up. Yeah.
I've
No,
got
it's almost over.
I've
No,
got
it's-
39-24 in the second half. UC San Diego
Yeah,
winning.
That is.
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
you're right.
correct.
Yeah, it
That's
started
correct.
that. Okay, it's still a ways to go, but they're
It's
looking
a little
good.
ways to go, but Irvine was down big actually to Santa Barbara. They had a big comeback to win Sleeka the Gouch Eater Cup.
Yeah, big 20-1 run by Irvine after they were down 13 in the Thunderdome. So
that was
a
impressive.
massive comeback for Irvine.
And those bottom two scores there, just know as a result of those two scores, Hawaii ended up being the team that did not make the Big West tournament. It was between them, Cal Poly, and Bakersfield. Over in the SWAC, Southern gets the outright title. They with the win over Alabama A&M, and Arkansas Pine Bluff is out of the SWAC tournament. Prairie View gets the last spot despite losing. Pine Bluff loses as well. Jumping down to that bottom row, Conference USA. Dorman, how about those Liberty Flames? They get the one seed and win the conference regular season based on these scores here.
They keep rolling along. They're as hot as any team in the country. They're playing really good basketball, and they're really throttling teams. Yep, they go into Conference USA the middle of next week with the one seed, and at large is not in play here. Liberty's going to have to win Conference USA. Their resume just doesn't have enough to it with what's going on in the SEC and some other power conferences. So Liberty Flames need to win the conference tournament.
Yeah, and real quick, those other conferences, Metro Atlantic, those scores up there just to note that Fairfield actually a home win over conference regular season champion Quinnipiac that they needed to get that last spot in the Metro Atlantic tournament. So congrats to the Stags. Congrats to Princeton. They get in the last spot in Ivy Madness.
Yeah.
And Utah Valley, Rocco, outright WAC champions by 2 games. But he said the Lopes lost at Abilene Christian. We did not see that coming.
Well, it's really weird too because I saw them play Grand Canyon and get killed, and it was like, okay, one team's way better. But a couple weeks ago, Tyon Grant Foster got hurt, and I don't believe he's back yet. So that's a huge factor for the WAC tournament.
It was a great game today.
And it was, yeah. And in fact, he has not returned to. I don't know what his long term is. He might be done for the year. That really opens things up. I would also caution. Here's a wild one for you, but Seattle U has a horrible record and they have a lot of talent. Very live dark horse in that tournament because the Grand Canyon injury and Seattle's finally starting to play well. They got to win again today to finish 8-8.
Let's go to the conference tournament games, though. And Joby, let me start with you. We had our first bid won, and it was in the Ohio Valley tournament. And how about congrats to SIU Edwardsville dancing for the first time ever?
Yeah, no, this was a tremendous thing for SIU Edwardsville. There's only a handful of teams that don't have an NCAA tournament bid in their history. They can cross themselves off the list. SEMO was the favorite. Most people had SEMO winning this game. They were the 1 seed. They also had all the power ratings, if you're looking at just the numbers, in their favor. So congratulations. Great win. Very solid win at the end of the day. As it were, the game was no fluke. It was a freaking 21-point blowout. So let them go in. They are likely a 16, almost for sure, barring way upsets in some of the side conferences, but they're looking at it as 16. But congratulations once again. And hey, maybe they'll even be in Dayton. Right now they would be in Dayton if Chalk holds in other conferences.
Yep, Brian Baroni's done a great job with this program. He's been there ever since they transitioned up. They really are kind of turning themselves into a conference front runner. And the other thing that's a little bit unusual, especially in this day and age and at that level, is what their retention rate is there and how they're able to hold on the players and not be hit by the portal. I don't know how much longer he's going to be there. I think that he's a really good coach that's going to go far. But it's just sort of amazing that a team that wasn't even D1 8 years ago is going to the NCAA tournament.
Their defense was awesome tonight.
Yeah.
I really need it after the game too. He actually had a pair of scissors when he got the job. He put them in a frame to cut down nets. When the first time they ever made it, they broke the frame open tonight and used those scissors to cut them down. So congrats to Edwardsville and probably going to Dayton, as Joby said. Salika, it was semifinal day in the Big South today, and we thought we'd have one good game and one bad one. We just had them mixed up.
Well, High Point, they did have to, slug it out towards the end. But Radford, unfortunately, they were getting ready to go for a potential game-tying three-pointer. But after the inbounds, the player slipped right around half court, was never able to get a shot off, gets called for traveling, and High Point is able to survive here.
They do survive. They take a Winthrop team on tomorrow, Dorman, that really dominated Asheville. Very impressive. And what do you think about this High Point Winthrop game? Can the favorite High Point win it and get their first ever bid, or is Winthrop gonna pull the upset?
I'm not bragging because I've gotten every other conference wrong, but I did like Winthrop from the start of this, so I'm going to stick with them. I do think High Point has more talent. I think they're really big. I love their guard play, High Point. They have more talent. Winthrop's going to have to play a really, really great game. But if they do, like they played today, they can beat High Point. But High Point will go to the game as the favorite tomorrow to win this conference and go dancing.
Yeah, they got to kind of break a little bit of a jinx here. I mean, I think I heard like 5 or 6 times already they've been a 1 or 2 seed in this conference tournament and have never found a way to win it. So see if, and it looked like they may lose today for a while there to Radford. Rocco, over in Arch Madness, heck of a day. A couple of pretty good games, actually.
As always, that's why we love it. Drake was in a big hole. They trailed for over 26 minutes of the 40 today. But like Drake does, they're all about the finish. And coffee is for closers, and Drake drinks lots of coffee. They just always impress me. They've been doing it all year. They play a snail's pace. It looks like they're out of it. And then they find ways to get stops and stops and stops and stops. And eventually it leads to some offense and get out of there with a 57-50 win. But I mean, this team is built to do exactly what they've been doing all year, win ball games. And then in the second game, I thought Valparaiso really, really brought it. Like amazing effort. Took a tough injury at the end there, but kudos to Bradley. Like they would not go away. Duke Dean for a lot of the second half had a cape on his back. He really was Superman for the Braves. And now we get the final. I think that a lot of the people in the Valley really wanted to see. Should be another Arch Madness championship classic for us tomorrow. It's beautiful.
Well, it's not the final Valpo wanted to see. Probably not the final Northern Iowa wanted to see. I bet Belmont, Illinois State, they probably wanted to see a different final. But yeah.
Yeah, I said the majority.
Joby, I think this is the win that cemented Drake in, win or lose tomorrow, though.
I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet, huh?
I am not there yet. I mean, it is.
I am.
They're
Yeah,
right in the
I am.
discussion, but I am not there.
Too big
the numbers aren't quite there, and unfortunately for them, and it's unfair. But their net's not great.
29 wins, Joby. 29 wins.
29 wins exactly. I would advise them to win tomorrow, and I would advise them strongly. They don't want to be nervous. Plus they win tomorrow. They're probably not in. They're definitely not in Dayton. Which if they lose tomorrow, they're at least in Dayton. They're not beyond Dayton, and if they win, so let's get rid of one game. But if they can get to 30 wins, I think that propels them at least to a 10.
I think if you had
there's a lot of pivot with this game.
Now, say if you had last year's committee, they would not be getting in with the predictive ratings that they had on their sheet that you just saw.
Yeah, and
there's a lot.
BPI of 78 is a bad number. Yeah,
last year, and that's what I look at. It's not a done deal. I'm not saying they're out or et cetera with a loss, but I don't think you can feel just, oh, we're in great shape. They're not in the situation that, like, for instance, Georgia is after beating Vandy today. They're not. Georgia's ahead of them, and so all of a sudden, Oklahoma gets to look at their preseason a little more instead of having just a god awful conference record. There are a lot of teams that they're fighting around that bubble.
Yeah, you're right. It's too bad like Drake doesn't have a win like Georgia had against Vandy.
Yeah, well, that's all they got.
Too bad.
Vandy just fell to a 10 or 11 itself. So they have one win over a 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on here. Griggs. It was semifinal day in the Northeast Conference.
Was.
And in both games, there were significant leads by the home teams. Central Connecticut was up 20 in the second half. LIU was up 15, I believe, at halftime. And huge comebacks, one of which was completed, the other which only went to OT.
Yeah, so Fairleigh Dickinson, I actually sort of stopped paying attention to it, was only looking at the score, and the game was over. It was at Central Connecticut. They're so much better than everybody else, and it was 20, and then it was 16, and then it was 12, and then it was 8, and then it was 6, and then it was like, oh man, we got to get this back on. They tied it, and Central Connecticut did sort of take control in the overtime. I don't think Fairleigh Dickinson led in the overtime, but what a comeback. And then, as you mentioned, STFU, which they don't like us calling it that, but came from almost as far back on the road to win at Long Island to get to the championship game.
Juan Cranford was there for St. Francis, was fouled on a 3. It got 3 free throws to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds familiar.
And otherwise, it would have.
It seems to be happening every day, every night, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a Red Flash special.
Yeah.
But now we've got coming up Tuesday, St. Francis at Central Connecticut. We'll preview that again on Monday night. But Dorman, let's go over to the Summit League and let's give some more congratulations out. The Omaha Mavericks, as of about 3 seconds ago, it's official by an 85-69 score. Omaha will be taking on St. Thomas in the championship game. I'll even fill that score in here for everybody so we can see it. But the Tommies are ineligible. That means Omaha has clinched the automatic bid. But they're still, and tomorrow they're just going to be playing for a championship. But they were very impressive against South Dakota today.
They were awesome. The 25 points they won by was not even that close. They were on fire from the middle of the second half, from the middle of the first half till just after halftime. They couldn't win. Their defense was all over the Coyotes. South Dakota couldn't do anything. A lot of those points they got were late, and when it was already over, Omaha looked really, really strong, really good. I hate this situation because this is the Summit League's big time to shine. Tomorrow night, Sunday night, they got the stage really all to themselves. The other games going on are either semis or quarters, and it's not going to be they're not going to get the eyeballs that they would have if this was for a bid. To be totally honest, the kids, the student athletes will be working their butts off. I know that both teams want to win bad, but for everyone at past that or associated with the schools, it's a letdown because we know Omaha's going dancing. They're very deserving. I just don't like the transitional period.
Well, but we do have a chance here for the double court storm tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both teams celebrate after the game. If the Tommies win, this was my pick for the Tommies were my pick to win this conference tournament. They shut down Eagle staff after he had 51 points in the quarterfinals. They had no points at half. I don't know what he got in the second half because we've been doing this show, but
but just
Rocco,
kind of an interesting, they lose. Well, as he was saying, they lose their storyline for their showcase event, and none of the four teams from the state of Dakota advance to the finals. So you have a game with no automatic bid on the line being played with none of
in an empty arena.
Yeah.
Rocco, what do you think about this game, though? The Tommies in Omaha.
I think the Tommies are better. They're more talent, and this is their season, right? The psychology changes for sure, and I'm just glad it was like $470 something to fly to the Summit title game. I almost pulled the trigger. I'm so glad I didn't, because like Salika said, like the stakes are not what they should be, and Dorman said it. Sorry. But yeah, I hope it's a good game. I feel bad for the league. This is the world we're in. Unfortunately, I think St. Thomas will use that new rule to their advantage and hopefully be eligible next year.
Yes. Joby,
yeah.
It was quarterfinal day in the America East, and we actually had, we had Chalkhold, and I guess, but a couple of these games were a lot closer than we thought, including New Hampshire was up on Vermont most of the game.
Well, New Hampshire, the former team of the people that disappointed us. I am not crying, but the Catamounts have won this so many times over the years. I guess they just use that experience as a program to do it. There is definitely a rivalry between Vermont and New Hampshire, as most folks who pay attention to this league knows. So that's a painful loss for New Hampshire after jumping out to the lead. And I actually thought they had it wrapped up, and then turned around, and all of a sudden Vermont won. And so, as I'm searching and looking at Alabama, Auburn, and I go, whoa, how did that happen? Sort of thing. So congratulations to Vermont. And, Maine, they actually, in my opinion, will be favored over the Black Bears tomorrow.
Yeah, and the game will be Tuesday actually. But first of all, congrats to Maine. Broke the first America East Conference tournament win in 20 years. And they get to go up against a Vermont team that they have a 30-game losing streak against. So, that's all you got to do.
What was so disappointing? Had New Hampshire held on, Maine would be hosting another game because of the reseed. They'd be at home against Albany. And I just haven't been the same since. I'm just so heartbroken.
And we got to briefly mention the end of this Albany Binghamton game because
oh my goodness,
Binghamton down 2, player driving as he's putting up a shot that should have tied the game. With seconds left, the coach calls a timeout, and there is no bucket, and they don't score, and they lose.
Of course, it looked very confusing on TV with Binghamton wearing the black jerseys and Albany wearing the very dark purple. So a little bit of a chaotic scene right there.
Yeah, but I'm so frustrated, Griggs, with these coaches calling timeouts when their team is in the middle of an offensive set in the final seconds.
Well, I think basketball would be a much better game if there were fewer timeouts, if there were no live ball timeouts. Like once the ball is in bounds, you can't call timeout. And coaches are not players. Somebody on the court would have to call a timeout. And then getting rid of replay. I think just doing that would make the game a lot better. But we've seen this happen multiple times, and it happened again today. They knew what to do. They had scored, and it was waved off because literally in mid shot, the coach called timeout.
And Greg, you know what's even more frustrating is, at least from a watcher's, a spectator's point of view, they don't even go to commercial. Because so in other words, you can understand, we need all these coaches timeouts because we need to pay for it and we need the breaks. The TV networks have negotiated the breaks in. You can at least understand that so that we can watch all these wonderful college basketball games. Guess what? They stayed there. So why do they have 4 timeouts apiece? I don't understand it.
Okay, this will be a big offseason discussion. Let's kind of move on here, though. Rocco, it was quarterfinal day in the SoCon, and wow, what the heck happened in the bottom half of the bracket?
Some teams stepped up and some others did not. VMI, they had an awesome, mid-January through mid-February where they went from 0-4 in the league to 7-7. They knocked off Wofford, Furman, Mercer during that time on the road, and then they stumbled down the stretch when their schedule got harder, but showed back up here in this event, ready to play Greensboro today, and VMI took it to them. They were the aggressor from the start and held on for that
game to watch. Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. Ricky Bradley played very well, 23 points, was clutch at the line, had 11 rebounds to go along with that. Pretty damn good for a 6'2" guard. They play with obviously a lot of heart. Andrew Wilson's done a great job as a coach there. One of the best turnarounds in the country from last year to this year. And now they get a crack at that Wofford team that they've already beat on the road. But they also lost to them at home. Little road win exchange program. Wofford knocked off the team I was high on, East Tennessee State, Chad. I think you were high on them too.
That was my team too. That was my pick.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. But, Wofford, preseason, we talked about them a lot. 5 seniors. This is their last hurrah. So I'm not super shocked because I think they're rallying together knowing it's their last dance. So Wofford could be a little dangerous here. But VMI's got nothing to lose. It's going to be a pretty good semifinal.
We just went through 2 conferences that have reseeding. The SoCon, not one of them.
Yeah.
No, but
the other thing about East Tennessee State is that they're one of the few examples I can think of to where they're hosting a conference tournament that they're not a member of. So
yes, they are hosting the Big South tournament right now.
That's right.
Well, and I'll tell you, Furman preseason, a lot of us had Furman winning this league.
I got them winning it now
over
a good Samford team, over a very good Samford team.
They rolled them today too, and this is I'm looking forward to. Actually, I think they're going to be both great games, but especially the Chattanooga Furman game. The winner of this game is going to be the heavy favorite to win the tournament on Monday.
Maybe.
But we'll see because you never know.
Wofford's got a lot of seniors.
Yeah, the Furman. If it's Furman and Wofford, I don't know if Furman is going to be heavy favored. That would be fun.
That will be.
And of course, I mean, it's just going to take. I mean, when you think Furman and Wofford, Johnson City, Tennessee is what comes to mind, like the history of that rivalry there.
Kakalaki is going to be watching interest because guess what? The flagship team of South Carolina isn't going to be doing much in the SEC.
Yeah. So. But probably, aside from Citadel VMI, probably the biggest rivalry in this conference. Probably Furman Wofford.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's move on, and it's that time.
Yes.
It is time to check in with the Stairway to 7, the Sun Belt Conference.
We're 18 rounds in, and we've got teams playing their first conference tournament game.
After all these rounds we've played so far, Dorman, the teams that got buys to the games today both won.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we've been going at this for 8 days already, but form held here, which brings us to some great semifinals tomorrow night in Pensacola. Arkansas State is definitely game. They have everything they need to beat South Alabama. That's going to be a nail biter, grinded out game. And same with James Madison, Troy. Troy really took it to Old Dominion today, who looked a little tired there in the second half. And Troy just put it on them because they had energy, and Old Dominion just their legs looked like they were dead there. So Troy took it to them. But tomorrow, I look for all four of these. The two teams that won today are pretty fresh. I look forward to two great semis tomorrow night.
Yeah, Arkansas State might be a little more tired because they got a bit more of a battle from Marshall, but
Sure.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I just want to make an observation about Old Dominion. They played and won 3 games. No one remaining in the tournament has won more than one. Old Dominion is guaranteed to at least match the winner of the tournament as far as number of wins goes.
yes. Well, we've got these 4 teams. So they all tied for first place. It was a 4-way tie. So I think we're gonna have a pair of really good semifinals here.
Yeah.
Quick note on the women's side: we were following the Marshall women's team, who had gone 4 for 4 in the Stairway to 7 on the women's side. They did lose today, so they did not. They're not going to make the full climb all the way up to the top of the stairway. But
Yeah.
jump over to the. Wait, Sleeka, how about the Big Sky today? We had a pair of opening round games where Weber State kind of rolled, and Northern Arizona, Eastern Washington was close for about a half, and then NAU kind of pulled away there too.
Yeah, I think I was paying more attention to the floor sweepers in this one than the results themselves.
Yeah. Rocco, we've got a pair of 2 of the 4 quarterfinals tomorrow. It's Northern Colorado, Weber, and Montana, Northern Arizona. Do you think we're going to see an upset either one of them?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think Northern Arizona is pretty dangerous because Carson Tout is an absolute monster. And then, Trent McLaughlin can really fill it up. Nobody plays more minutes in the Big Sky than Trent. Just that 1-2 punch, I think, makes NAU pretty dangerous. They also seem to really show up at the Big Sky tournament each year. Not surprised they got that first win. And we'll see. We'll see if Montana's ready for it. I think in the other game, Northern Colorado, a little too much talent. Weber's been so hit or miss this year. So I will stick with the Bears in that game.
Yeah, I think it'll get a little more interesting when we get to Monday and we get to those other 2 quarterfinals and then into the semifinals beyond that. But
And wait a second. We're having technical difficulties here.
yes, well, we're moving on to this to the CAA and sponsored by Flow Hoops here. Flow again, having a wonderful. There it is, Griggs. The CAA
Yes.
today. It was the 4 second-round games. Your thoughts on these 4 games with Drexel, with 2 upsets actually, Delaware and Hampton by seed at least upsetting their opponents.
I'm not surprised that Drexel won. I'm surprised that they won so handily. I mean, at times it felt like it was even more handily than what the final score was.
They were up 25 points in the second half at one point.
In Delaware, that one did surprise me. Not first that they won, and second that they just blew Campbell off the court. Just kind of an interesting day. Hampton with a big win over a northeastern team. Sorry, that I thought was pretty solid. So just kind of a nutso day. Monmouth Bulldog to beat Hofstra.
Yeah, Dorman, Hofstra was one of the teams that was playing really good heading into this tournament, so I was a little surprised that Monmouth got that win. I was not surprised by the Delaware win over Campbell because Campbell's not been the same team since they lost their second best player, Sanani, to a really bad injury a few weeks back.
Yeah.
I was surprised, Jack, because I was on the opposite side of all your picks. So
okay.
You had it all right, and I was off. But we'll get hopefully 2 good games tomorrow in DC.
2 good games
So
only.
4. I'd like 2 out of 4.
We got our John Deitel there covering them.
Yes,
by
we
the
will.
way. Check him out on the website.
Yeah, check out his interviews. He's interviewing cheerleaders and hot dog vendors and everybody else at the event. Yeah.
And he's wearing towels and underwear.
Yes.
Yeah.
One coach
Yeah.
told him to change. A coach told him to change his underwear.
Okay, we don't want to go there.
Oh, please tell me that actually happened.
It did.
It
did.
It happened.
Did.
It was a Drexel head coach. But when he asked him if he did any, I think the question was, do they have any shot at all against Towson tomorrow? And he kind of asked him if you wearing Towson underwear. But Griggs, what do you think
Yes.
about these 4 games?
Um,
Towson, Drexel, William Mary, Delaware, Wilmington, Hampton, Charleston, Monmouth.
okay, so we're moving on from Title's underwear. Always a
Yes,
great
please.
topic. um, oh, I'm sorry. Delaware was sort of impressive today, and I think I must catch William and Mary. I mean, I've seen them play several times, but I've never really seen them play well. At least not defensively. They can really light it up, but Delaware has a chance if William and Mary, who's very, very light on the three, goes cold in that one. Still, I'm going to pick Bill and Mary and Towson and Wilmington, and yeah, I'm picking all chalk. I'm just going to be boring,
I,
even though
I,
today it was the inverse of chalk.
I think Hampton's a scary team. I think that may be a really good game, but I think Wilmington will squeeze it out. I think William Mary wins this one. My problem with William Mary is I don't think they can win 3 games in 3 days at the
Yeah.
style that they play. So um, let's jump over to the West Coast Conference, Rocco,
Yeah.
where we had a heck of a well, not a heck of a but a pretty surprising upset here with Pepperdine knocking out Oregon State
I was surprised.
after they took down Portland. And these are 2 teams that kicked their asses the regular season, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean they were 0-4 against them combined with 3 of those losses by 20 plus, and so nobody really saw this coming. I thought, Ed Schilling, the head coach, new first year head coach, done a really good job just in this tournament, running everything through Todorovic, who was on the Dons last year, so we know him well around here, and Mo Odom really stepped up in this game tonight. And weird deal with the Beavers. They decided to play Michael Rataj, who's an all conference player, but he clearly was not 100%. And Wayne Tinkle in the press conference afterwards regretted playing him. Odd deal there. Weird year for the Beavs. They were great at home all year. One of the best home teams anywhere in the West in any level, 15-3. But on the road, neutral games, a little bit sketchy. And it's an interesting end to their year. And now the Waves get to keep it going against Santa Clara tomorrow, and I'm sure Santa Clara doesn't mind that.
I think they're in over their head with Santa Clara, though.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But as we record this here, we're only at halftime of the Wazoo Loyola Marymount game. Wazoo is up by 8 points. The winner of that game will get San Francisco tomorrow, by the way. A San Francisco team that's going to be without Marcus Williams. So I think that could be an interesting game without Marcus Williams. I think either one of these teams may be able to pull the upset and make it to the semifinals against the Zags.
Yeah, San
I would
Francisco
agree.
lost to Washington State at their place, so yep, it was an ugly end of that game. Double technicals.
That was it for today's action, but we're going to preview a few things for tomorrow. Beginning, let's see here. Stalika, the A-Sun Conference Championship game, North Alabama and Lipscomb. What are you looking forward to here?
Well, we were a razor's edge away from this game potentially being in North Alabama hosting Queens, but we'll see if Lipscomb will have a little bit of a relief factor, at least getting to know they play one more day. Granted, it's not going to be a completely partisan crowd, but it's still going to be a pretty desperate North Alabama team on the other side right here. I do think home court's going to be a little too much for the Lions to overcome in their first ever conference championship at the D1 level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
look,
am
another
so
team-
excited for this one. Oh,
Another
man.
we could be 3 for 3 at first timers if North Alabama wins this game because we already have 2 first timers in Omaha and SIU Edwardsville.
Yeah.
Dorman, what do you think? Do you think it's North Alabama or Lipscomb?
I will say this for those that didn't see the other night, Queens gave Lipscomb everything they could handle. Queens had a nice lead in the second half, and Lipscomb at one point didn't look like they were going to come back, in my opinion. So Lipscomb needs to play a much better, a much cleaner first 30 minutes than they did the other night against Queens. The game is on Lipscomb's home floor. But I will tell you, North Alabama will bring as many people as they will get tickets. This place will be jumping tomorrow. The atmosphere will be absolutely awesome. I can't wait for it. I'm going with the upset. I'm taking North Bama.
North Bama. Joby, I'm on with North Bama. You joining us with North Bama?
No, I'm on the Lipscomb train. I think they recover from what was a very game Queens team that should have actually put them out.
Yep.
But sometimes when a team looks completely out and they miraculously come back, and it was somewhat miraculous, in regulation, as it were. They seem to keep going. And that's why I'm going with Lipscomb. Plus, I think if these teams take away, they had the rest. If you take away the components and they played like 10 times, I think Lipscomb would win 6 or 7 of them just neutrally on a neutral court. And so I'm going with the better team and the unique comeback story that is Lipscomb for this tournament.
Rocco, it is semifinal day tomorrow in the Patriot League. Navy, which became the first team to win at BU, they're going to Bucknell now, and Colgate's going to American.
Indeed, Chad. So I would say, Bucknell swept Navy during the season. Both games were fairly close. So we'll see if they can beat them 3 times. Obviously never easy, but sometimes there's matchup advantages there. Since neither game was a blowout, I think Navy's live. And they ended the season, the Mids, with 3 straight wins to close out, to get up to the 5 line in the conference tournament. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. Bucknell really, really struggled with Lafayette. Kind of like what Joby was saying about Lipscomb. Maybe they'll breathe a little bit now that they got through that. Sorry, that was against Loyola Maryland. But, I think that might be their exhale moment, and they can get to the final. In the other one, it was American who struggled with Lafayette. Big time. And then they closed that out 1-2. Now they get to host the perennial powerhouse in Colgate, who's down, of course, for their standards this year. I actually watched this matchup on the last day. Nice coverage, Patriot League on CBS Sports Network last Saturday. Watched it start to finish. Matt Rogers took over down the stretch. They're going to need that again from him in the big one tomorrow, but it is at American. And I think we're going to get our American Bucknell championship game.
I'd like to see that. I think it'd be a fun one, but somebody's got to knock out Colgate. It's just one of those things.
To do it. I really think so. They had the upper hand last week, but we'll see. And that game was at Colgate last week. Now they get it at home.
And the winner has a date with SIU Edwardsville and Davis.
They very well might. We have one conference tipping off tomorrow. A little out of order here, but I'm on the screen. But it is opening round in the Southland tournament. So, Griggs, let's start with these 2 thrilling games: Corpus Christi against Houston Christian, and Southeastern Louisiana against Incarnate Word. Go for it.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that we don't get the Louisiana and Texas divisions that we've had in the past in this tournament. But TAMU CC. Or TAM, like Corpus Christi had some moments during the season where they didn't look,
and they're very pissed off that they're the 5 seed instead of the 4 because of some very stupid tie-breaking rules by the Southland.
So I think they roll tomorrow. Sela and Incarnate were, I guess, a bit of a coin flip there.
Let's talk the more serious question in here, and I was always going to go. I like to go through each of you when we start a new conference and say who's going to win this. Maybe the question is there any chance McNeese does not win this? Joby, let me start with you.
And the big story here is, can McNeese impress enough to hold on to a 12 seed? Because that's a big deal. That means you got a real shot in the NCAA tournament of at least a win. So watch this. This McNeese team is good. They've been good all year. Consistent, and I think that they see that 12 seed, they seize that 12 seed, and watch out, whoever that would be. Clemson, watch out, Clemson.
Dorman?
I agree with everything Joby said, and I will just add that because I don't think that McNeese got the publicity this year because they fell short on. They scheduled a couple big games, one against an SEC, and it might have been Georgia. It's escaping me right now, but they didn't perform well those 2 nights, and they fell flat. And I didn't think they got the publicity on the year that maybe some of the under the radars. And everything that Joby said, this is a really talented team. This is a really well-coached team. I think McNeese rolls through this.
Sleeka, you agree also?
I'm guessing there's not a chance that Will Wade is going to pull a Jai Lewis and say, well, I got to take this new head coaching job at X University right now so I can get started on the portal. So, no, I think the question is, who would they end up facing? I could possibly see Nichols sneaking into the championship game here.
Oh, I think that Nichols should worry them a little bit. Nichols is one of the teams that Rockwell that I think beat them on the season. And but do you think McNeese just gets it done here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think maybe the only chance they slip up is if you know, a school in Austin, Texas decides to call Will Wade early in the tournament, and he gets a little distracted. But I think they've already been talking for a couple weeks, so I don't think that's going to matter. They just want to win the title. They're playing at home. It's kind of the most ridiculous conference tournament format out there out of the 31 leagues. This team is head and shoulders above the rest. Even if McNeese plays a bad game, they're probably still winning by 5 to 10.
Hey, Rocco, it has not affected Ben McCullum at Drake that a school out of Charlottesville might be contacting.
Well, he's got a lot of schools calling him. So.
Yeah.
That's it for the games tomorrow. Also, let's jump over to our survival board up there on the website. Griggs, this is a board that we do for
Yeah.
to assist the committee. And we
The
count
assist
down
the committee,
and then
yeah.
we count down the number of teams left with a chance to win it all. Heading into the day today, there were 272 teams left. This has not been updated for North Dakota's elimination yet, and we know that there will be elimination out of the West Coast Conference before the end of the night, but at least heading into those two games, we were at 242, and that's like I said, that'll be 240 by the end of the night, actually.
Yeah, that's a busy day to eliminate that many teams. But
still at
and
68.
a couple getting locked in, as you mentioned, SEMO winning the conference championship in Omaha, basically mathematically wrapping up the auto bid, so they're super
Okay,
locked.
first of all, it was Edwardsville, and there it
Or
is in the
Edwards-
Ohio Valley, though. Bold in all caps. Congrats to SIU Edwardsville. They are locked in. No chance they don't make it. But we have teams in different categories here, Griggs, for the committee, correct?
Yeah, I mean they're locked in and in all caps, but the blue teams are also locked in, and the committee must take them, and they'll know that when they come here and see.
So if a committee member is on this website and not that certain whether or not Purdue should be in the tournament this year, even though they had the great run to the finals last year, what does this tell them?
Well, that they need to be in.
Okay.
Like they're in blue, so they need to be in, and that way they know that. So.
And, well, Griggs, what if a committee member is right now watching UC Davis losing to UC San Diego, but says, you know what? I don't care if they're losing to UC San Diego. Maybe they should get an at-large bid. What would this tell them about UC Davis?
And that could happen. I mean, a lot of committee members favor UC Davis. It is kind of a party school. They may have hung out there wanting to take them. But, I mean, that's why we do this, in case something like that happens, so the committee can come here and realize they can't take UC Davis.
What about these teams that are crossed off? What if one of the committee members says, well, Sacramento State, maybe we should take them?
Yeah, and it is the capital of California in Sacramento. I could see it's one of the bigger economies. We want the capital of that state in the tournament. I mean, that's how the committee members think. But they can come here, look at this board, and realize, oh no, we can't take them. Like they're no way. They've been eliminated.
What if the committee members are watching right now and they're watching this UC San Diego game again, but they're thinking about UC San Diego maybe, and they're in green?
Yeah, that means that they can debate them and decide for themselves whether they want them or not. The answer is yes, they need to take them.
Well, I think you're right on that, but
Yeah.
but we're going to let them make the final call on that one. All right, let's go through our trophies. We're counting down the 15 best trophies in college athletics. We have already seen the wagon wheel, the old Oak bucket, all the other mythical conference buckets, including that tie-dye Bill Walton Conference of Champions bucket. The Concordia St. Olaf Troll, a.k.a. what was it? Sweden.
Sweetums. Yeah.
That's a real trophy, folks.
Yeah,
This one is real also, the Border
Yeah.
War Trophy,
Yeah,
celebrating the battle between Colorado and Wyoming.
yeah, it's the border war between Kansas and Missouri that's given to the Colorado-Wyoming winner.
The Winwood Cup.
Every time I see that picture on the trophy,
Are we sure that's not a picture of Bob Huggins on the trophy?
I don't know.
That is definitely Steve Winwood. And last
Yeah.
night we saw, yes, you got to be
This
over
is
18
real.
to see this. This is a real trophy.
This is the rare trophy that's given out to the Citadel VMI winner. I had no idea until a few days ago that this was actually a thing.
Yeah. Again, you got to be over 18 to be on this website. Tonight's number 8. And we just saw the game played tonight as well.
Ooh.
Mr. Stalika, it is the Gout Cheater Cup.
Yeah, and that was a big cup for UC Irvine to take again with that 20-1 run after they were down 13 in the Thunderdome. So definitely a bit of high stakes here for Irvine, who keeps their at-large hopes alive.
Rocco, I know you've been to a lot of those West Coast games. You've never even seen this trophy, but this is a real one, isn't it, Griggs?
Yeah, this is the real Gout Cheater Cup, and it's a replica of an actual Gout Cheater. Most people are like, "Well, what the hell is a Gout Cheater?" And that's a Gout Cheater. Haven't you ever seen one before?
Let's get out of here and go to final thoughts. Dorman, let me start with you tonight.
I am all in for a 2-bid Missouri Valley, a 2-bid Big West, and a 2-bid A10 if VCU goes to the finals. If Drake loses tomorrow, I have him in. If UC San Diego loses at any point in the Big West tournament, I have him in. And I know it's debatable and it's tight, but if VCU goes to the finals of the A10, I got him in. These teams have won and had wonderful years, 27 wins, 26 wins, tons of wins. I've seen enough mediocre basketball out of North Carolina, Ohio State, Texas, Nebraska. It's enough. Reward the teams that had great seasons.
Yeah, I think VCU better make the finals though after they lost that game to Dayton last night. That was a little disappointing on their
They
end.
better win.
Yeah.
Rocco,
Yeah, I agree with Dorman without going into too many details. I just think, especially with the Big West and the Valley, we'll see. Obviously, the rest of the bubble's rooting for Drake to win tomorrow. I think that goes without being said. But Bradley's been a quality team all year. They had good wins in the non-conference, scheduled really hard. Just took a couple too many losses throughout the process, but they've stayed in that top 70 like all year. So I think if Bradley does get to the dance, they'll be a very tough out and probably find their way on the 12 line still, unless there's absolute carnage in power conference bid stealing. I think beyond that, interesting day. In that final race the race for the final number 2 seed potentially. Kentucky stepped up with a road win at Mizzou. We talked about St. John's when you asked me about them. Wisconsin stubbed their toe and against a non-tournament team at home. That might ruin their chances, but the committee liked them a lot last time around when we heard from them. And then Texas Tech and A&M are still out there too. So I think that's an interesting battle. Other than that, the conference tournaments are the best, and I'm very thankful that you do this show every day because I think you get stuck in too much of the bracket talk, like day in and day out. It's easy to fall into. You don't appreciate every one of these leagues and their conference tournaments and all the drama. So appreciative of Hoops HD for doing this on a daily basis.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Joey,
I have bad news for Dorman.
Uh-oh.
Of all the teams that he listed,
Mm-mm.
all of them are out.
Oh.
But yet there's still no room. There's still no room at the end. Now, Stalika, your team's in right now. We can debate about that. He didn't mention them, but
No, I didn't.
debate that. The fact of the matter is the SEC just gobbled up a bunch of bids today. I truly believe that. And we can say, well, this is just third-party elements of it. But you go to Bracket Matrix, which has been pretty good. And, if you guys are great, like Rocco, et cetera, great bracketeers, you're going to do very well if you pick UCSD if they lose, Drake if they lose, VCU if they lose, to be in, because you will be against the grain and you could win the title this year. I'm not saying that is a all, be all end all, but the J&G actually for one doesn't always, but actually agrees with the bracketologists on Bracket Matrix this year on that assessment. I personally agree, especially when it comes to Drake. I agree that they are at large worthy. But just because it's what we want doesn't mean what the reality is what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment on this podcast in particular if those teams don't win. They need to win. If you want Drake in this tournament, for instance, you should be rooting for him tomorrow. Not saying, oh, 2-bit MVC. I don't think so.
Stalika.
Well, while it was a tough day on the floor for Marquette today with their loss to St. John's, this could be a banner weekend for a couple of former Marquette players who are now head coaches. Brian Baroni was the first to win tonight with SIU Edwardsville clinching their first bid at the D1 level, and former Marquette standout Brian Wardle has a chance to potentially spoil Drake's dream of winning the Valley as Bradley goes for another title in the Valley.
Griggs, you want to finish the show off?
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at some of the potential bid thieves, I think Colorado State's red hot. They could win the Mountain West, and we could see as many as 6 Mountain West teams. I think we could see 2
At
from
least,
the Big
maybe
East,
7,
maybe
maybe
7. Yeah. Well, I think
Joey's dying
San Diego
over there.
State
Yeah.
lost tonight. I could make an argument for 2, and I'm
Yeah,
with
but-
you on UCSD and Drake
San Diego State lost tonight. It did. So I mean, that might
They
be
won
the
tonight,
7th, a quality
unfortunately.
win over San Diego State. But and then you've got 2 or 3 from the Big West, because if someone other than UC Irvine or UC Davis wins, we got 3 Big West teams in there, and I think we might be able to get 3 or 4 from the Missouri Valley too. The A10, no, they're just a one big league.
And how many from the Northeast Conference?
The Northeast, 1.
Oh, okay. I thought
Well,
you could throw I thought you could throw 3 or 4 in there from them too.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, it's a 68 team tournament.
On that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. On behalf of David Griggs, David Dorman, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, Joey Fortson, and John Salika, I'm Chad Sherwood. We will be back again tomorrow night with another Championship Week video notebook, and we will talk to you then.